And welcome back to another episode of Psychic Evolution. I'm Jamie Clark.
And I'm Maggie Clark, and this is the podcast where you discover the psychic potential within to empower yourself and manifest your psychic and mediumship gifts. And today we are so excited. First off, we are dedicating this podcast to one of our listeners who's a teenager named Bryce, and he specifically asked for an episode on growing up psychic. And lo and behold, we found the Trinity Oracles, which are three psychic sisters, Jasmine, Erika, and Candace. And they grew up psychic. And so we thought, what better to bring three sisters who have grown up with all these beautiful abilities and gifts and know exactly what it's like for every person out there who is growing up, not sure how they can approach their gifts, not sure how they can understand what's happening, and how can they talk about it to their families and their peers, and how do they even fit in this world when it's so crazy. So we want to welcome all three of you, Jasmine, Erika, and Candace, to our show. Welcome so much to Psychic Evolution.
Awesome. Thank you for having us. Yes. We're excited.
So, Jasmine, tell us one story that was so profound when you were a kid growing up that really, really transformed your outlook on life and helped you understand, okay, there's something to this psychic stuff.
You know what? I remember I was probably maybe 12 or 13, and my uncle had passed. And lo and behold, that night, he showed up at the foot of my bed. Nice suit, everything. He was just looking at me, and I saw all these sparkles and stars around him. That was the first time I would say I experienced like mediumship, like actually seeing a deceased loved one, a deceased person just sitting there. And I was like, whoa, and I pulled the covers over my face. I was like, whoa. And then he left. And I was like, oh, wait, I shouldn't have did that. Oh my God. Because then after that, I was like, he never came back. I was like, will you come back? Will you come back? He never came back.
But notice he was giving you comfort. Going, oh, that's freaking you out. Okay, I'll disappear for now. And now it's gotten you a chance to want to be able to make these connections even stronger.
Yes.
You know, sometimes it's that pull back that becomes even more powerful to go, whoa, hey, what just happened?
Exactly.
And kind of interesting. But yeah, I believe you were saying you were laying down and at the bed. There a lot of times we'll get those dream state visits, or it's when we're just kind of waking up into this dimension as we perceive it, that will integrate those levels of consciousness. And it sounds like your uncle pretty much knew how to directly connect with you to go, hey, doink, I'm right here. You see it?
Exactly.
You're paying attention?
Exactly.
Now, did you tell anybody at that age, or did you kind of keep it to yourself? Because sometimes people talk about it. What did you do?
I kept it to myself. And then a few years later, I disclosed it. And I was like, my uncle came to the foot of my bed. And they were like, really? Like my mom and dad were like, really? My dad was kind of looking at me and I was looking at him. And then we never discussed it again.
Right. So you couldn't openly talk about it, but you did reveal that situation after a few years. Yeah.
Yes.
And how was that growing up, being activated at that? Were all of you able to share these experiences with each other to realize that it was a connection that all of you had and that it wasn't just you're separate and you have no one to even connect with?
We didn't
How did that work?
We didn't talk about it
amongst each other,
We
which is very weird.
we just kept it on mute. We're just like, oh, that happened. We're just like, okay, anyway.
So,
If you would,
yeah, Erika,
please.
share a nice experience that you had and something that was really profound for you.
Okay, so I remember, I guess when I started meditating, they say, you open yourself up. So I didn't know that. I wasn't feeling well. I was kind of sick. And I read a book, The Asking It's Given by Esther and Jerry Hicks, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I read that and they're just like, meditate. So I started meditating. Every time I meditate, I started hearing voices talk to me. So I was like, oh, shit.
Did you place them? Did you know who was connecting with you? Did you begin to find out who it was?
The children. And it was like every time, then it'd be like silent whisper, like not silent whisper, but like very low whispers of someone talking to me. And then I heard a woman, I still hear this woman to this day. It's like a British woman. She's like, Erika. And like every time I'm going to be late for something, like she's just like, wake up. And I'll get up. I'm never late because of her. I'm always like, thanks, girl. That person when I leave. I do like, thank you. But yeah, like it got bad though. And I stopped reading the book. I stopped meditating. I guess I opened myself up and I just started hearing voices every time I tried to go to sleep. People were talking to me every time. So I was like, oh my God, I must be schizophrenic. I'm crazy. So I did all this research on schizophrenia. So yeah, and I was like, oh shit. They said it starts when you're like Yeah, like you're a teenager. They said that's when it starts. I was like, oh my God, I'm schizophrenic. But then I noticed, I was like, you know what? I only hear this when I'm about to go to sleep, so I can't be schizophrenic. And
Right.
then I'm like, I'm not crazy.
And in
Yeah.
questioning that, did the voices maybe get a little bit clearer? Did they lighten up so they weren't distracting? How did that work for you?
Oh yeah. I just told them I don't want to hear it. I said, I'm done. I was like, I don't want to hear it. But it got annoying though. I get mad like, shut up. I'm trying to go to sleep, and then they eventually went away. But then I let it come back in when I wanted to.
And that's a huge dynamic. Because I've been doing it my whole life, but when I started doing this professionally 23 years ago, as you know, the other side doesn't have to sleep, man. They were freaking bugging me in my sleep state, everything, and I'm like, wait a minute, I'm getting worn out, and I feel like I'm working 24/7. So I shared the fact with the other side, our loved ones, to go, please do not bug me in my sleep, or I will not do this work. They have not bugged me in 23 years. Literally, they are very, they're very hungry, because I wasn't going to put into where I'm always in a reactive state. I'm like, man, this is me. It is a connection. It is teamwork. And they're talking with us, not just to us. But the meditation aspect is I had a lot of time to meditate. For me, I say there's two different things that I attain from meditation. One, learning to quiet the mind. Two, learning my own thought process of when I'm thinking my thoughts and when I'm picking up someone else's. Because if you don't know yours, you're not going to know what's your stuff or others. And then it's like, I'm getting all tired, like, and it's like, oh man, don't let it worry you. For me, I put all my parameters around it in a way that I also have my team, my spiritual team, and we all have guides. But in this, that they're very good at helping to orchestrate the other side. Do you have any connection to your team, to your guides? Have they stepped forward a little more clearly?
Yes.
Yeah, I can tell they have different voices. That's
Different
I can tell.
vibes.
Yes.
So for you, is clairaudience one of your strongest gifts?
Yes. Yeah.
Very cool.
And when I read oracle cards too, I can see they write stuff on the cards for me.
Excellent.
Nice. So
The
a little
image
bit
in
of
my head. Yeah.
clairvoyance, clairaudience coming together. That's beautiful. And how about you, Candace? What's a great story that you want to share of growing up psychic, something that was really profound for you?
I was in 4th grade and I used to watch a show, Sister. And I went to sleep one night and I had a dream, and it was me and my friend on the playground. And my friend, she goes, "Are they really sisters?" And I was like, like, come on, they're about twins. And then the next day, that same scene played out with her saying, "Are they sisters?" And I was like, and I remember being like, that's weird, but I ignored it after that. I was just like, that's weird. But then as I got older, I would see bits and pieces of scenes, sometimes people, and then I would see those things the following days, and I'm like, okay, this is something.
And isn't it interesting? You were already connecting with that reality before it even happened as we perceive it. What if on a quantum level you were picking up some of those interactions of a potential other realities that are happening now? Did that give you an opportunity as the youngest sister in this case to have two older sisters who have pretty much maybe gone through their own stuff to where they were able to share with you some of what they did and how they handled receiving this information and the way of it? Or did you do it kind of on your own? How did that work for you?
I did it on my own. Like certain things, I'm just like, that's weird. Like if I said it out loud, people would be like, what are you talking about? Especially then they'd be like, wait, what? So I just kept it to myself.
Wow. So at what point did all three of you come together and share all your different experiences and abilities and things that happened as a child? When did you actually formulate and connect and realize, whoa, we have this beautiful gift that we can offer the world?
You know, it started with me. I started reading cards. I'll never forget, I was like in the Dollar Tree, and it was the first time I heard somebody say, like I heard a voice, "Buy those cards." And I was like, whoa, it freaked the living day. Now I know it's Archangel Michael.
That was the
but
front
I didn't
cashier.
know at the time. Right? Right? You know, so I took them home. I started playing with them, and I sat there and I was like, what do I do with these? Like, who was this? And they're like, you can read them. And they were regular playing cards. And that's how I learned about, and I started doing cartomancy. Like I started researching it. I was able to understand all these things. So I started telling them, I was like, oh my God, I'm doing this. And then, you know, they would invite their friends over, and I was doing readings for the friends, and it was coming out like accurate for them. So then after that, it was kind of like they started using cards. It was kind of like I started it, and then they started kind of getting into cards and stuff like that. But before that, we didn't really discuss what we were experiencing with each other, because we grew up in a very like Christian household. So we didn't, that's why we kind of kept it to ourselves. But once we started working with the cards, that's when we started opening up and kind of like, I saw this, I read this, different things like that.
How did
Boy,
that
say
feel
it's the
to
devil.
realize?
It's the devil. That's what they say. They say it's the devil.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
I might have been like 10, maybe even younger than that. I remember they always like, you know, you should always fear God. Fear no man but God. And I was like, this doesn't make any sense. This is contradictory. You say you're supposed to love God, but you're supposed to fear him at the same time. Like, that doesn't make any sense to me. I was like, I love God. I think he's a great artist. I'm like, and they were like, that. Yeah. I'm like, it doesn't make, so it was easy. I was just like, whatever. Like,
Yeah.
and plus
And
the Bible's a book of prophecies anyway. So I'm like, that doesn't make any sense.
Have you ever been talking with somebody and maybe had some of their loved ones come through to you in a mediumship going, hey, McFly, could you tell them this? And did you say anything? Did you work with that ability while you were in that conversation?
I wouldn't tell people that a deceased loved one's coming or their spirit guides is talking. I'd just be like, blah, 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 blah. And I just like say it, you know? And they'd be like, wow, that's exactly what I needed to hear. Or how did you know? And I was just like, oh, you know, sometimes I just know. But I always had that ability before I knew that. When I started becoming conscious of what's going on, that's when I knew, oh, I'm connected with deceased loved ones, angel spirit guides. But I always kind of just knew what to say or had the solution and stuff like that.
Were you able to hold your own identity while you were growing into your life with these aspects, with these talents? Were you able to kind of blend it in and, you know, in this case, maybe not talk about it or suppress it in a way? And what was the catalyst to get you to start talking about what you were able to do?
Ooh, I was able to blend in like super easily. Like, but I never, like I said, I didn't disclose that I was like channeling stuff for people. So my friends would use me. They'd be like, oh, what do you think about this guy? And I'm like, you know, he's a jerk. This is not going to last. I won't even talk to him, you know, stuff like that. And then 6 months later, they're like, you're right. So they would like use me. What do you think of this person? What do you think about that one? This, and this. But yeah, so it was easy for me to integrate. But like I
That's
said,
beautiful.
I didn't accept that I was psychic until I was older. I don't think I really knew what was going on till I was older.
Yeah.
Maybe you didn't need to. Just see it as
It's
natural.
true.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
me too. I just thought I was analytical the whole time. Because I always watch people. I watch people's body language and stuff. And then they're like, oh, my boyfriend's cheating. I'm like, you can look at him and tell he was cheating. You can, like, I can look at people's face. I can just tell. I just watch people all the time. I just thought I was analytical. I didn't think I was psychic. I always listen to what people say. I listen to how people talk. Like, I actually really listen. I pay attention. I just thought I was analytical. And then when it happened, I'm like, I could have told you that was going to happen. They're like, oh, you're psychic.
And being able to be analytical like that, hear what they say and feel what they mean.
So pretty much you guys were all able to be like very intuitive, use your gifts the way you wanted to, even though you kept them to yourselves, you were able to like rely on them. And then you eventually grew up and woke up and said, whoa, this is what I am. What was the waking up journey for you, Jasmine?
When I heard that voice in the store, like,
Yeah.
buy those cards. And I was like, but I bought them though. I listened. I was like, what?
Yeah.
That was,
awesome.
it then started getting, and then when I started researching and seeing what cartomancy was, that started the awakening, gradual awakening process to, oh, this is what people can do. Oh, this is like psychic. And it was just, everything was just boom, 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 boom. After that, it just flowed for me.
You know, and seeing a lot of people activated now with their abilities, because again, I always say everyone's a psychic medium. It's do you want to use it? But I see so many people going, hey, I just got activated.
How about you, Erika, when you were like all of a sudden woke up and be like, whoa, I finally have a language for what this gift is and I know what this is. What was that awakening experience? Was it gradual? Did you have Archangel Michael be like, buy those cards? You know, that was Jasmine's experience. But how about you? Was anything really profound that kind of just woke you up and said, oh, that's it?
It's probably hearing the voices through meditation, knowing that there's something else outside of what we're seeing. We basically been lied to, basically, that it's all evil. Because some of the stuff they said was positive. I was like, oh. And then I had an experience one time. I lit a candle and I read the prayer. I was like Archangel Michael candle, like one of those ones for $1. I asked the question and I woke up and it's like 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. in the morning and it was like lightning voice. He's like, you made the right decision. And the candle flickered, pop, 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 pop. And I was like, oh, but I wasn't scared though. I was just like, oh, okay.
That's so cool, right?
Excellent.
Wow. Yeah.
And have you still kept that connection?
Yeah, when I do readings, he comes through.
Nice. And what about you, Candace? Anything profound, like a cool spiritual awakening experience that kind of just shook you and woke you up a little bit consciously?
I'm a big feeler, and I had a friend back in college years ago. She was dating this guy, and I always had a weird feeling about him. I was like, I don't know what this is. And I told her, and she didn't really take too kindly to it, neither did he, because I was like, oh, he's weird, he's taking advantage of you. And I was like, I don't know why I keep feeling this way. I was like Googling stuff, and there was like, oh, like being like empathic and having that feeling about a person. And then months later, I found out, why I had those feelings and that I was actually real. I was like, okay, that's what this is.
And getting that information and validation that what you felt but didn't understand at the time, once you found out that that was the case, did it allow you to trust those feelings a little bit easier? Were you able to go, okay, when it feels this way, it's going to usually play out that way?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because at first I just thought I was just being judgmental. I was like, oh, okay, I'm judging this person. But then it just kept coming, and I was like, okay, I can't stop. So it was definitely confirmation. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. So,
and I think being able to create your own team, the more that we become in tune, because notice for me, our guides are never making us, you have to pay attention. It's like, whenever you're ready, if you're ready here, I'm right here.
Yeah.
Doink, do you want to talk? And can we work together? In that, have you met any of your other guides? Have you been able to make connections with them? And in some ways, do different guides have different abilities?
Yeah, for me, I connect a lot with animals. Certain animals will pop up towards me, fly, like butterflies or dragonflies will fly by my head.
Cool.
And for me, it's like a reminder of certain things that I'm like, okay, this dragon represents certain things, the dragonfly or the butterfly. Certain animals will like come to me, and I'm like, oh, okay. I can pick up that, what they're trying to kind of communicate to me.
And being able to be sisters on that same channel, has that given you more openness to work with these abilities? Have you been able to increase and improve maybe your ability to see things or to hear things? How has that worked?
Yeah, for me, big time, big time. I always say my dominant clairs. That's the word we use. My dominant clairs, claircognizance. I've always known things. People's always said I'm a wise child, and then once I started like working with like Trinity Oracles, it's like I had all the other clairs, they just weren't as strong. But when we started Trinity Oracles, it's like the other clairs just started boom, boom, boom,
Excellent.
like ramping up all the way to now I taste things. I'm like, I taste cigarette smoke. And they're like, my uncle was a smoker. I'm like, I'm like,
right.
oh,
Clear ambiance.
secondhand smoke here. Oh my God.
I know.
That's pretty cool, because I think there's like this group consciousness, especially between sisters, because first of all, you grew up together, so you know each other pretty well. And then once you're out of the psychic closet, so to speak, and you're like really talking about your gifts, all it can do is expand consciously. Do you feel that that travels even easier between you guys because you're sisters and you all grew up together and you know each other so well?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah,
kind of like,
That's true.
yeah, because there is a
Yeah,
group
it does
consciousness that it builds,
it's
especially
true.
because you're working together. So all those gifts expand. I'm really excited to see what this is going to do for you in the future, because I just looking at you guys, you can actually see a triangle around your head. It feels like it's so powerful. And the Trinity, of course, we love the sacred Trinity, right?
When we do
Gotta
readings
love
like for YouTube and stuff like that, we do pick off, like Jazz will say, like it'll come to me and then Jazz will say, like I was gonna say that.
Yeah,
it
we're on the
happens.
same
It's like
channel.
the connection.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So, Erika, you had to put some boundaries around the voices because they were like bombarding you. What
Yeah.
other boundaries have any of you three been having to like kind of put in place so that you either hear things easier or it comes in a more natural way or it's more comfortable for you?
I had to put up certain feelings. I'm like, oh, okay, this person feels this way. Okay, I don't need that. So sometimes I have to picture myself in like this bubble. I'm like, okay, this is how I feel. This is how they feel.
Right.
Right, especially because empathy is one of your main gifts. So you're
Mhm.
bombarded with all of the barrage, right? And how long did it take you to really get a good, clear boundary system with your empathetic abilities?
That's something that I'm still learning.
Yeah.
Especially the deeper, like when you have clients with people, and sometimes it's like an emotional reading. You're like, oh man, like I want to go cry, but I'm like, I can't. So sometimes I'm like, yeah, let me go outside or something like that, or picture that person like walking into, the light. It just depends on the situation for me.
Right, right.
The parameter I had to put was neutrality. Like
Okay.
staying like super like, because the more neutral you get, I realized that, I was taught from spirit, the more neutral you are, Jasmine, the more clarity you're going to receive. You're going to pick up on those things that are going to give the person validation. And it allowed me to disassociate my personal experience, my personal thoughts, my emotions. Like, boom, look, I'm neutral. This is what I'm hearing. Give it to you straight.
Yeah,
Take it or
right.
leave it.
So,
And you don't have to wear the energy.
yeah. And
Bingo.
do you have any techniques for that you want to offer our listeners? Because that's a really good technique.
I actually always tell myself I'm staying neutral. I only allowed my spirit guides to give me information. If my spirit guides want to bring their spirit guides in, I will allow their spirit guides to talk. Now, during the reading, I do remind myself to, Jasmine, stay neutral. It's like reminding my brain, stay neutral. Stay neutral.
Yeah.
My brain will bloop, shut off. Then the information, it's like allowing me to stay like a clear, channel.
Just the information.
Exactly. Because sometimes us as humans, you get emotionally involved in somebody saying this, and you're like, oh my God. Like, and you're like, stay neutral because I can't help them. I get emotional, and then it creates the block. When spirit is like, we are trying to tell them they're going to be okay. But now I'm freaking out because I'm hearing that they got a cancer diagnosis. And I'm like, oh, and I can't receive that the person to tell them you're going to be okay. I like create that block. So that was a big parameter I had to create with myself.
Yeah. Now, did you learn that when you were a kid growing up, or was that something that really developed later?
It developed later. Like I have a strong relationship with my guides, and they were the ones who were teaching me that. They're like, tell yourself to stay neutral. And I was like, huh. And I was like, oh, it's a whole new world of information coming in.
Yeah.
That's
wow.
awesome, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that could help a lot of kids too. My hope is that a lot of teenagers are going to listen to this going, how can I like improve now? Because,
Yes.
consciousness is just expanding throughout everywhere. We are really expanding consciously as a whole humanity species. And
Yes.
so I'm hoping that all of our listeners that are younger can take these tips and tricks and start implementing when they're younger so that they can grow into their gifts naturally. That's so beautiful.
And
I love that
Yes.
neutrality.
Yes. And as you tell people, when you learn to be neutral, you can help even your own family, because then you're able to receive, you're sitting there and all of a sudden, like you hear in your ear, your spirit guides, you feel, get neutral. You get neutral, and like I had a deceased loved one. Tell your family member they need to get their vitamin levels checked. They got their vitamin levels checked. Lo and behold, this is low, this is low, this is low. Now they get to shift their future. I always see the positive staying neutral, because now this information is coming in. It's to help somebody shift their future, shift their reality. There's always a better outcome. So it's like, boom, now it's shifted, and they're like, I feel good. Always trying to help you. So
And notice they've got their calling card. Stay neutral.
stay neutral.
Found it.
Let me get neutral. Oh, that's the information. Okay, got it.
Yeah, exactly. Funny, but
Yeah.
true. That way you know what's your
Exactly.
stuff and what's others.
Bingo.
And are there times when because for me it happens all the time, but has there ever been a time where you're just standing there and somebody walks by you and fing, you pick up information? And
Yes.
does it allow you to know who you're dealing with more effectively and how to deal with them?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. I was at the store a couple months ago. I was at the toy section. I think I was at Walmart or something. And this guy walks by me when he has a shopping cart. And like I immediately was like, okay, I got to get out of this store. And so I left the store and went to the next store. And I was walking towards to go back to my car. And I had to walk past the Walmart to get to my car. And I look, and it's the guy that I saw in the store. He had a big duffel bag. And him and like, I guess like a manager or security, they were fighting for the duffel bag because he was stealing from the store. And she had to grab it from him. And he walked off and he was like mad. And I was like, okay, that's why I had to leave.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And notice you pick up that information, you don't always understand why it's a certain way, and then you receive it like, oh. Because for me, I always want, okay, if that's a feeling, what's the reaction? I want that Solodex information to go, okay, if this happens, this is usually going to be the reaction to it. When you're being able to share information, is it only the good way, the good information that you share? Or if you're showing something negative that could be helpful to another person, how would you say that? What would you share the information? Because
I give it to him straight.
yeah.
One of the biggest things I had to get over fear of the truth. That was the biggest lesson I learned in this, because The quicker I get over fear of truth, then I'm going to receive truth from the entire collective, from source. I'm going to receive the truth. So I learned, at first, I used to be afraid to tell people, oh, we're hearing something bad, oh my God. And then I was like, it took me a while to wait, they're telling me to tell them this because it's going to change their life. They're telling me to tell them this because they can shift the reality. They're telling me to tell them this, that I'm sorry, but your mother's going to be passing away in X amount of months. Spend that time with her. Because before you were not. Now spend that time and make those memories. So I don't have like I only share the positive. I'm going to give you the positive. I'm going to give you the bad, because you can't fear the truth. You can't. The quicker you accept truth, the quicker you can change your reality. The quicker you can accept something and you can just change it or enjoy it. So now people love us. They always see on YouTube, we love you guys. You guys are so real. You guys are so real. You guys are so honest. And we're like, you're paying. That's what you're. Yeah, just do it.
Yeah, be genuine. I also
Keeps it
found,
real.
there's a lot of responsibility goes with what we do. The more accurate you are, the more responsibility.
True. Exactly. Sometimes spirit guides will give it to you the way that the person's going to understand. They'll say, they're like, this, and this. And I'm like, that is odd how they're saying it. And then I say it, and it's just like, they're just like, oh, that totally makes sense. Or I can see that happening to me. And some people are just like, that's not true. That's not going to happen. And then, like I said, they call you back and they're like, you're right. You're right.
But you got to listen to people's, I always listen to how people talk at the beginning to know what emotional level I can go with them.
Yeah.
Like some people, I can be like, boom. Because some people, they're really emotional. They can't handle it. You just got to, listen how they communicate back to you.
Right. Don't leave them worse than when you found them. Lordy.
Exactly. That's why I always ask my spirit guides, tell me how you want me. They'll tell me how to say it to that person. They'll say it a certain way to one person. They'll say the same message to someone else a different way, because spirit knows how they receive. This is how they understand. This is how they receive. So I just kind of trust and just be like, okay, this, and this.
That's a big thing. Trust. Because I'm like, you could receive all you want, but what's the outcome? What is
exactly?
Exactly.
Now, if you could give your younger self a piece of advice for when you were growing up psychic, what would that look like? What would that be for each of you?
I would say follow your own path. Some people think they know what's best. So I would just say follow your own path and follow your heart, and don't feel the need to fit into any box. Especially growing up, you feel like you need to fit in, so you kind of hide certain things or express yourself a certain way.
How about you, Jasmine and Erika? What piece of advice would you give your younger self growing up? If you could look back and be like, you got to know this about life, or you got to know this about your gift, what would you tell yourself?
There's other people out there like you. I probably would have studied more, probably went to more psychic groups or something, or more psychic development when I was younger, or something like that. Hogwarts School Academy, the Harry Potter. I would have went there instead of freaking regular school. I would have loved that. Probably just study more, learn more, be around like-minded people who were doing it in a positive way, not brainwashing people and stuff like that.
Cool.
Yeah.
And you, Jasmine?
I've had so many lessons, but what I would tell myself, my youngest, I'd probably say, just roll with it. Because I used to be in the bathroom trying to do telekinesis. I was all into the stuff. The magic is real, and trust the magic. And don't be so afraid of the magic. Don't be afraid.
Yeah, not have the fear. I think that's probably would have been not have the fear when you're young, because when you're young, you're just all scared. You don't know what's going on.
Do any of you have children of your own now?
I do.
You do. Are you really teaching them to embrace their gifts? How old's your child?
He's 13.
13. So is he psychic too? Does he have the gift? Has he processed any of the same things?
He's more analytical, like his aunt here.
He feels things though.
He does feel.
And he does have prophetic dreams though. He's told me stuff.
Yeah.
He's I've seen that. He's told me stuff I've seen that before in a dream.
Yeah, but I don't think he's psychic like us. I think it's more intuition, and I teach him more follow your intuition. If you have a nagging thought, follow it. I try to teach him more of that trust before throwing him in this whole realm. Trust your trust yourself.
Yeah.
And he's a Pisces, so he's
so we know he's psychic. We just got to get him to realize it, right?
Exactly. But I want to build that foundation of trust, that instinct, above all else.
Beautiful.
Well, and if they can see Mama working the abilities, going, well, you're not that crazy, and I know you was
Yeah.
Mom, so how's that?
Exactly.
Because I've got two
Exactly.
boys of my own, yeah. And
Mhm.
growing up, they used their abilities. They only knew me doing this all the time, and they
Mhm.
would have people that they would see walking past their door with glowing eyes. And
Yeah.
they thought, well, wasn't that you, Dad? I'm like, well, I'm in this room here. They would go chase the other one, and I wasn't
Yeah.
there. So it was
Yeah.
really interesting that in a beautiful way, they become very comfortable with those gut feelings, with that ability
Yes.
to hear what people are saying and feel what they mean. And
Yes.
it became not a judgment, but an understanding so that we can communicate and talk with people, not just to them. And I
Exactly.
think that, yeah, when they can see a parent that's going through this and they can see some of the ins and outs of, hey, you're having a conversation with this person and you just said that, and their reaction was more open and receptive instead of, oh, Lordy, that gives them a lot more, in this case, education to see how Mom is connecting with other people.
Yeah.
Because for myself, as I was younger, I was growing up and I would see my mom talking with everybody. And I'm like, do you know those people? She's like, no, she never knew a stranger. And
Yeah.
so often she would be talking with these people and they would leave her presence crying. And
Yeah.
I thought, are you doing something wrong? She's like, I'm doing something right.
So tell us a little bit about your YouTube channel and the work you're doing and how are you want to grow Trinity Oracles? What's the vision here?
Visions. Good question. Take over the
Put
world.
that into perspective.
That's right.
man.
Take over the
Oh,
world.
okay. So on our YouTube channel, we do celebrity readings, and that's how we get like honestly all our clients. Is we basically do. We don't know these celebrities. We do a reading on them, and then the stuff will come true, and people are like, oh my god, you guys said that, and then they'll book a reading with us. They like our personalities, like that we're sisters. Like people book a reading based on our YouTube channel and our accuracy on YouTube. Yeah, we have an Oracle Card Readers Academy. We teach people how to read Oracle cards and connect with their spirit guides. So a lot of people say like, that's our number one question. People say, how do you connect with your spirit guides?
Yeah.
So we made a course like teaching you how to do it in less than 5 minutes. It's a meditation we created.
Mhm.
Excellent.
It's super simple, and people who've done the course are like, oh, shoot, like I heard someone talk to me. I felt someone poke me, and they're actually like reading cards now accurately.
Our vision
Tell
is-
people the truth. No, tell people the truth is probably, and then tell people like everyone can read oracle cards.
Mhm.
Everybody has psychic ability. Everyone can develop their intuition, whatever they're trying to do, and we're making it easy for them. Our classes takes like less than a week to do, and you can become an accurate reader. It's super easy. It's not. People always make it think it's so hard. It's not that hard.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sharing the fact that look at what you're doing. You're targeting some other person, in this case, a well-known person in whatever way, and yet you're able to pick up psychic information about them, and then it
Yeah.
happens. My thing
Yeah.
is, because some people will perceive, you should stop reading my energy. I'm like, well, unless you can stop thinking thoughts, then okay, because all I'm doing is reading
Yeah.
energy.
You said in your email there was a situation where an angel saved one of you. I definitely want to hear this story.
That was my first instance that there was magic. Like that was my first, like in that God is real. I'll never forget. I was probably 8 years old, 9 years old. I was coming out of Walmart, and there was this black woman there. And when I think back on it, she had no children around her, but she had Girl Scout cookies. She's like, hey, you want Girl Scout cookies? I was like, no, that's okay. And she says, before you step out in that road, look before you step out in the road. Did I listen? No. I was la la. In my 8-year-old, 9-year-old mind, la la la. I went to go step. She grabs me, pulls me back. A car, shoom, comes by. I turn around. The table's not there. The woman is not there. No one else reacted around me. No one was like, oh my God, you almost got hit by a car. Nothing. It was like no one saw that. And I remember walking to like the car and I was like, oh my gosh, like what happened? I will never, ever, ever forget that moment. I just knew, I was like, that was an angel. That was
Beautiful.
an angel.
Oh my
Yes,
God, how
yes.
beautiful. I've got like goosebumps from head to toe.
Right?
Look at how they can bridge those realities. That
Yes.
became a physical person. You didn't even question it until after.
Exactly.
Like, what the flag knock?
Literally.
And then seeing how, right, those vibrational patterns can merge into realities we perceive it and create a
Yes.
physical person. Have you
Yes.
ever had that connection happen where, in this case, maybe an angel or a guide manifests as a regular physical person to come in and talk with you because maybe, you weren't listening in the etheric aspect? How?
Yeah, years ago, I was working at a job and I woke up and I was like, something just doesn't feel right. And so I go to work anyway. I was like, maybe if I work, I'll forget about it. And this lady comes to the line. I was a cashier at the time, and she's like, hey, before I leave, I want to let you know that, I'm a woman of a certain age, I don't have my period anymore, but I was bleeding a lot. And she's like, so I go to the doctors and it's cancer. They told me I had cancer. And she's like, oh, I'm just telling you this because you need to pay attention to your health. Then an hour later, I'm throwing up like all over the store. And then I ended up having appendicitis.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Wow. So she was like kind of warning you a little bit.
Yeah, she's like, yeah, don't ignore your health.
Your
when you see
symptoms.
something, your symptoms, go and check it out.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Ignorance is not bliss in that case, man.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So I thought it was food poisoning. I was like, maybe it was something that I ate, but it didn't come out like that. So.
Oh my goodness. Fun. Any other fun stories you guys want to share with our listeners?
Anything that might benefit the kids that are
Yeah.
growing up with their abilities who sometimes might feel alone.
Our goal also is to let people know they have their own power and that learn how to use a pendulum or oracle cards, tarot cards, whatever you want. Because the thing is, people wait forever for an answer for God. And people don't realize, I tell people this all the time, spirit guides and angels, they're God's human resources.
Yes.
Why don't you ask them for the answer? And then, you're going to get your answer super fast. I've had people tell me they wait in 20, 30 years. They're like, I pray every Sunday, I never get the answer. And I'm like, if you go to a psychic, they can tell the answer like that. If you learn how to read your own oracle cards, you can get the answer like that. So I always tell people, save yourself time. Get into the other realm. Don't be scared of, God's human resources. Tell the kids also to use their intuition, especially when seeking out groups, because you might end up in a cult.
And gurus.
You might spiritual gurus. They might be, hypnotizing you, brainwashing you, you asking for donations all the time. And next thing you know, you can't leave and your life's ruined, but they keep getting better. They're living in a mansion. You're still working, 9 to 5, doing nothing with your life, but they want that energy and that group feeling so bad that they don't even listen to their own intuition when their intuition telling you, there's something off about this person, but they still keep going back because they're they're brainwashed. So Be wary of spiritual gurus and cults or whatever you want to call them.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Good, right.
I know my first lesson, I actually apprenticed with a professional psychic and astrologer for 16 years.
Oh, nice.
His first lesson was spell guru. And I said, gee, you are you. He's like, exactly. You have everything you need within you. You never need anything without.
Yes.
And profound, right? And because I kept going like I looked at him like a guru, and he's like, no, I am not what you think I am. It's all about you. And he's like, just look within yourself. It has nothing to do with anyone else. And so really good message for kids these days. Yeah. And a great message for kids these days when they're opening up, not to fall down a rabbit hole, because there are predatory energies that will take advantage of kids with gifts. And
Exactly.
so really, that's a great message for our listeners, just to be aware that there are things out there that you don't want to play with, and trusting that intuition. That's beautiful.
Yes, exactly.
Beautiful.
Exactly.
That's amazing.
All
Especially
right.
nowadays, in today's society, everybody's looking for validation.
Yeah.
And people are not even going within themselves. Everything is, I'll put a picture on Instagram, and then I want people to validate me and tell me I look good in my outfit. So they're not even in tune with themselves anymore. So that's very, yeah.
You got to keep yourself included in helping other people. Because that
Sure.
connection, I found after many years, I was helping everyone else and not myself. And I find in a human aspect, when we start helping everyone else and forget about you, you start to do this in life. That's weird. Where'd everyone go? They'll get
Exactly.
busy, move. Right.
Yeah.
It becomes a reflection of consciousness going, you're giving everyone else all the energy and not saving anything for you. Everyone
Bingo.
disappears.
And listen to other people. I would say that.
Yes.
Listen to other people, because you might find a spiritual guru, and you might say, I love going to this group with you, or your friend goes with you, and she's like, something ain't right about that person. Listen to your friends,
Thank
because
you.
they're picking up on something obviously you're not.
Thank you.
So
It's
Nice.
that's a very big lesson, because those on the outside can sense things that you can't sense, can feel things that you can't feel, and you're in denial.
that's their gift,
And that
They're
spirit
using
could
their
be
gift to help
protecting you,
you.
trying to tell you through other people this, and this. Another lesson I would give the kids, because kids and teens stay in their heads. When you get in this spirituality world, your best friends are not your spirit guides. Your best friends are these humans out here. Your best friends are these wonderful people. So when they start and they're all up here, I'm channeling and all this, and they stay up there and they don't ground. Then they're having these experiences and they're thinking all these things that then they forget about the human experience. They are so up there they forget to come down, and anxiety starts happening,
Yeah.
depression starts happening, psychic attacks start happening, disassociation. You start having all these other things because you're up there and you're not in your physical body anymore. You're just like, woo.
And then you end up on, medication to numb yourself, and then it just catapults.
Exactly. Like your spirit guides are your best friends who's looking out for you, but it's like, don't disconnect. You can have, like, my spirit guides are my best friends in the spiritual realm, but I also have best friends in the physical realm, So keep a lot of kids, keep it real. A lot of kids and teens, they stay up here in this whole mental sphere and channeling and doing all sorts of things. And it's like, go outside, come down. The earth is beautiful. Get an activity outside. The world is not that bad. It's wonderful,
Beautiful.
Like you got to have the balance. It can be, exactly. You got to have that balance between the spiritual and the physical.
Now, if there is something that you would want to tell your parents, because I know we have a lot of parents listening who have kids that are growing up psychic right now. If there is one message you would tell your parents going back in time, if you could just tell them one thing that would have supported your growth, what would that be?
Listen to them. Parents always dismiss their kids. Like, I remember I used to work with this lady, and she said she remembered she was 4 or 5, and she's like, I want you to see like a green, like she looks like a green goblin or something in her room. And she saw her mom was like, you ain't seeing that. You ain't seeing that. And she said, like, she gets, like, every night she goes to sleep, her soul comes out of her body and goes to a different planet. The thing is, when most people are psychic, it's usually generational. So usually the parents feel something, they just deny it.
Yep.
And they don't open up and tell them, like, oh, when I was younger, I used to do the same thing too. So they make their kid shut their abilities down and make them feel like crazy or less than just because they're opening up. So, just listen to your kids.
Exactly.
Beautiful. I love that. I was one of those kids. Mom, there's a green witch in my room. Go back to bed, Maggie. You're making you're dreaming,
Or I've had some parents say, like, oh, my kid's saying there's a man, like a boogeyman in his room. And the parents are like, oh, we just ignore him, make him go in there. And they start having like sleep paralysis. They can't sleep. They start failing at school. And there really is a demon in their room, in their closet. And they don't listen.
Exactly.
Get that shaman.
Yeah.
So parents, all the parents listening, please listen. If you have kids that are growing up psychic, if you are a teenager growing up psychic,
yes,
please remember there's 3 sisters here standing right before us, sharing their beautiful voices with you, sharing their beautiful stories with you, that you too can make this work and be in this life and be a part of this life and still work with your gifts, cultivate your gifts, and receive messages. And if you are so inclined, you will help a lot of people, one person at a time. Even if you decide to pick up oracle cards and do readings, don't hesitate to have fun and set parameters in place when you need to. Get your parents to listen to you if you can.
Yeah, exactly.
And trust yourself. That was a beautiful message, Candace. Thank you.
Yes. Yeah. And I also tell parents to not be afraid of their children's gift, not be afraid to help their children develop their gift. If you don't know what you're doing, maybe start seeking, because there's plenty. There's plenty of psychics and psychic development schools that actually focus just on children. So you can seek out those psychic development schools. You can seek out those psychics who those groups that actually, they're like, all I do is work with children. I help them develop the gift. I help them ground. I help them to put up those boundaries so that they're not absorbing everybody's energy, And I'll never forget this one story. This one parent accepted her child's gift, but then she had her kid parading them around. Give somebody a reading, give them a reading, give them a reading, give them a reading. And it's like, don't do that with your child, teach them boundaries, have them respect boundaries. So I would definitely reach out to someone and ask Spirit, please guide me to the right person to help my child. Someone of heart, someone of the light, someone that has good intentions, Ask your spirit guides to guide you. And then your child can be guided and developed, and so many wonderful things to come.
And comfortably, yes, and live life, not just survive.
Yes,
exist.
Awesome.
Exactly.
Well,
Thank you, ladies.
Thank you so much for joining us today. We are going to put a link in the show notes to your YouTube channel and your website so people can find you. And thank you, Jasmine, Erika, Candace. It's been an honor and a pleasure having you on our show.
Yes, thank you for having us.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Bye.